Good day to all of you, and God bless you too. My name is Dr. Alex British Chinedu Tasie from Ishopo Ancient Kingdom, which is in Ikwerre local government area of Rivers State of Nigeria, West Africa. I am a writer, a musician, a filmmaker, a football coach, a historian. I like using the article A, and also a multi-dimensional thinker. I am a prominent and notable Ikwerre historian. And I am popularly called Professor of Native Intelligence. What I have here to treat is the people who are originally called Ikwerre people in Ikwerre land, and the people who are called strangers in Ikwerre land. The people we refer to, we know as, we see as Ikwerre people, legitimately, originally, and the people who belong to the stranger element background in Ikwerre land. That is the emphasis of this discussion, this topic. Ikwerre land is mostly found in Rivers State of Nigeria. Ikwerre people are also found outside the shores of Rivers State, like the people of Ohaji Mwishin and Agwa people, Ishopo Autonomous Community in Akporo Idato, Obodoku, Imo State, all identify themselves as Ikwerre people of Rivers State. Ikwerre is used to identify the people who call themselves Ikwerre people, their language, culture, and their environment. Just as we have it in almost every other society in the world, so we have it in Ikwerre land, where original people and strangers come together to compose a society, just as we have it in almost every society, every community in the world. So we have it in Ikwerre land, where some people are termed original and some are termed fake in a society. So Ikwerre is not an exception. In Ikwerre land, not everyone is as equal as the other. Originally, not everyone is as equal as the other. Some people are original in Ikwerre land, and some others are fake in Ikwerre land. That is the case in Ikwerre land. Some people are known as aborigines, as native people of Ikwerre land, as original people of Ikwerre land. And some people are known and seen as strangers in Ikwerre land. So who is an original member of the Ikwerre ethnic nationality? Who? An original member of Ikwerre land, a legitimate member of Ikwerre land is someone who comes from a legitimate family. Number one, is someone whose father has a blood lineage to the head or the founder of the family, to the founder of the kindred, to the founder of the village, and ultimately to the founder of the community. So an indigene of Ikwerre land is someone who can trace his or her origin from his or her immediate family to the end, which is the community. So when someone's history is somewhere abridged, then something is wrong with that person. Any Ikwerre person that his or her lineage is traced paternally, not maternally, paternally from that person's family to the end of the community, is an original member of the Ikwerre ethnic society. In Ikwerre land, Ikwerre people do not practice what Igbo people call Ebola Nwashelowa Yahiri. No, it is an irregular practice in Ikwerre land. Ebola Nwashelowa Yahiri. Wherever a child comes from, let him or her stay. Let that child stay. Ikwerre people see that as a taboo. For you to be called an original Ikwerre person, a legitimate Ikwerre person, your bloodline must originally flow from your family to the community, ancestor, to the founder of your community, to the founder of your village, to the founder of your kindred, to the founder of your family. Then you are qualified to become an original member of Ikwerre land. Outside that, you are not original in Ikwerre land. For example, in my own case, as an Ikwerre person, my name is Chinedu. The name of my father is Ikwerre from Ishopo. The name of my father's grandfather, is called Chima Michael from Ishopo, and his own father called Tasie from Ishopo. And Tasie was a child of Amadi from Ishopo. Amadi was connected to Oluwangwe from Ishopo, and Oluwangwe to the head and founder of our village called Nkanya. Nowhere abridged. So I am a full-blooded Ikwerre person. Anybody who has his history traced from his family paternally to the community, to the village, to the lineage, is a full-blooded Ikwerre person. Is legitimate, is also original. In Ikwerre land, there are some other people who are not original members of the Ikwerre ethnic nationality. And two groups or more make up what we call the stranger element in Ikwerre land. One of the groups is called Omu Ohu or Omu Ele Ohu, children of slaves, children that have lineage with, slaves brought into Ikwerre land. Omu Ele Ohu. In the past, Ikwerre land was not filled with people as it is today. We had in the long distant past tiny communities and villages. In fact, thick and big bushes almost covered many areas of Ikwerre land. And so many big people and so many families desired to have people to come and live with them, to keep them company, to be part of them. Listen very, very well. In the long distant past, many Ikwerre communities were very tiny, not as populated as we had it today. Thick and big bushes covered many areas of Ikwerre land. And so, the real indigenous of Ikwerre land desired to have people to come and live with them. And so, what they did was to go and acquire people called slaves. People they bought in the market like common goods and brought them into their families, into their villages to be part of them. That happened in the past. Traditional slavery was part of the traditional life of the Asians in the long distant past. People who had the resources and who also had the needs to acquire other people as slaves did that. They did that. So many Ikwerre villages and communities, because they had in those days large expanses of land available and empty, they decided to bring people from other areas, other places to live with them. And most of the people that they brought into Ikwerre land were acquired with money. They were bought like common goods in the market, because in the long distant period, human beings were traded in the market like common goods. So that was what really happened. In the long distant past, so many well-to-do people, wealthy people, rich people, brought in so many people as slaves to live with them, to carry out some duties, some chores for them in their domains. So many rich people in Ikwerre land bought so many people as human beings and brought them into their families to do one job or the other for them. Most of the slaves that they acquired were used in their large farms to assist them farm. Most of the slaves that they acquired were also used as guards, to protect their environments. Some others were brought into Ikwerre land by those big chiefs to tap wine for them, to to hunt for them, especially set long traps to kill animals. All these things happened in the long distant time in Ikwerre land. Some other big chiefs in Ikwerre land also acquired slaves and tied them to stakes, as we in modern time tie cows to stakes. Human beings in those days were also tied to stakes. Those big chiefs bought human beings like common goods and tied them to stakes. Some of those that they acquired were acquired for the purposes of ritual and sacrifice to the gods. Some other people were also bought as slaves and tied to stakes. Some were kept underground. And when a big chief dies, some slaves would be used to bury him in order to accompany him to the land of the great beyond. When an important person dies, for example, when a big chief dies, his people will go and bring some of his slaves, bury them along him, place them by the side of the deceased, in heaps by the sides, this side, that side, in heap, alive, to accompany the dead to the land of the dead. These things happened. One prominent Ikwerre chief in the past, called the late Chief Ikwerre, bought so many slaves and tied them to stakes, and kept some underground. And when he died, some of his slaves were used to bury him. One British ethnographer and ethnologist who was in Nigeria in the ending periods of the 19th century, and also the early periods of the 20th century, called the late Dr. Palsy Amauri, Dr. P.A. Talbot, captured in one of his history books titled The Tribes of Niger Delta, the burial of the late Chief Ikwerre of Ishogo, and how he was buried with many of his slaves. There were so many reasons why people at that time bought slaves. And so later in time, the slaves became so many in Ikwerre land. And today, their children are also so many in Ikwerre land. In Ikwerre land, a slave was never set free. Ikwerre people did not practice the Boni type of slavery, where at some point a slave would be given his or her freedom. In Ikwerre land, that was not the case. In those days, no slave was given freedom. If you were acquired as a slave, you stayed as a slave forever. And make out dearly. And that is why in Ikwerre land today, so many big families, so many original families in Ikwerre land, have slave appendages in their families. Almost every original family in Ikwerre land has a slave appendage in that family. Those families, those important people, principally brought in other people as slaves into Ikwerre land. And I tell you authoritatively that today in Ikwerre land, the children of the slave element background outnumber the original Ikwerre people. That is the fact. That is the fact. Yes. There is another group of people, in the family of the stranger element background in Ikwerre land. There is another group in that family, in that group. And that group is called Omirinya. Omirinya. And Omirinya in Ikwerre is a woman who is not married. A woman who has reached the age of marriage and is not married yet. In some other Ikwerre communities, it is all about every woman that is not married. So that is what an Omriya means in Ikwerre land. Any woman that stays in her father's house and begins to bear children in that her father's house is called an Omiriya. In the past, in Ikwerre land, it was a taboo for a woman to stay in her father's house and begin to bear children. It was a taboo. It was not pardoned and permitted. So, a woman who is not married and stays in her father's house and begins to bear children there is called an Omiriya, and her children are called Omiriya. If she has only one child, that child will be called Omiriya. That is what is in Ikwerre land. So the Omiriya background is also there. The children of Omiriya also belong to the family of the stranger element in Ikwerre land. That, of course, is the case. The difference between Omiriya and Ohu is this. Traditionally in Ikwerre land, a woman, for one reason or the other, that is natural or unnatural, may make a woman not to marry. That, of course, is quite obvious and understandable. For one reason or the other, natural or unnatural, a woman may stay in her father's house and begins to bear for children. One of the reasons in the past why a woman stayed in her father's house and gave children was because in the past there were some families in Ikwerre land that had no male children to continue their family lineages. And so the fathers, of the women in those families desired and requested their women, especially their daughters, to stay in their houses and give birth to children, to continue the lineages of those families. It happened in those days. A man who has no male child to continue his family lineage requested one of his daughters and says to her, please stay at home here and give us children. Please stay at home here and give us children. We want a male child to continue our lineage in this family. Then the man does the traditional rites that accompany that, to the family. And the family will agree unanimously that that woman should stay in her father's house and begin to give forth children. Any child or children born by that woman become legitimate member or members of the family. Dearly. But for a woman, for no reason, stays in her father's house and begins to bear 4 children. In the past, that was not pardoned. And any child or children born by that woman in that family are all called bastards, because they do not have, any father of, someone to call father. That is the case in Ikwerre land. Any child born by that woman is called Nwa Omirinya. And that child, of course, in Ikwerre tradition, is accepted as a bona fide member of the family, of the community, but with limitations. That particular child cannot be as equal, with other legitimate members of the family, of the community. That child must have traditional limitations. That child or those children born by that Omriya woman can never touch objects of traditional worship, sacred objects of traditional worship. That child cannot touch them. That child or those children can never be made a title holder or title holders in the community, in the family. That child can never rule legitimate people traditionally. Of course, that child can be allotted a parcel of land to build a house. He is naturally integrated into the family. Certain traditional rights are accorded to him, but that child must have limitations as compared to original members of the family and the community. That is the case. You know that in life and in Ikwerre land, as palpable, as obvious, as ostensible as it is, an woman may someday identify someone as his or her father and tells her mother, Mama, I have seen my father now, I want to go back. So when the man comes in the traditional arrangement, and does the traditional rites associated, with taking back that particular child, the child goes. So you don't count an Nwa Omni as a permanent member of the family, because someday may come when the child will tell you, I have identified who is my father and I'm leaving. Nowadays, they don't even perform the traditional rites associated with it. They just go. You see them, I have seen my father, and they go. That is the case in Ikwerre land. So about 20% of Ikwerre people come from Omu Omani. About 20% of Ikwerre people come from Omu Omani. In Ikwerre land, Ikwerre people do not usually have what we call Ele Alemasrim group. People who like a place, decide to integrate there officially. That was scantily done in the past. So you don't always find out. But the children of Omu, the children of Ele Ohu in Ikwerre land are so many. There are so many. And also the children of Omu, Omania. Children of Omania are also so many in Ikwerre land. Altogether, they constitute about 90% of the population of Ikwerre people in general. These two groups, Omu Ohu and Omu Omania, constitute about 90% of the population of Ikwerre land. And only about 10% of Ikwerre people are original members of Ikwerre land. Only about 10% of Ikwerre people are legitimate, original members, aboriginal members of Ikwerre land. That is the fact. These people who make up the 10% brought other people that today have populated Ikwerre land in general. That is the fact. One of the reasons, or one of the ways, better put, one of the ways to know who is exactly an original member of Ikwerre land is this. Any Ikwerre community that you go to, and you find a family that cannot carry the Oho title, the traditional scepter called Oho, is not original in Ikwerre land. Any family in Ikwerre land that its members are not eligible to carry, to hold the Oho scepter, the traditional scepter called Oho in Ikwerre land, is not original. Any family that its members cannot go to the traditional shrine, the shrine of the community, the shrine of the family, and libate, is not original in Ikwerre land. Any family in Ikwerre land where members of that family cannot libate in the traditional shrine, cannot go to the public shrine, the shrine of the community, the shrine of the family, and libate, is not original in Ikwerre land. To repeat again, any family in Ikwerre land where its members cannot hold and carry the traditional scepter called Oho in Ikwerre is not original in Ikwerre land. And any family where its members cannot also libate you know, at the traditional shrine. Go to the traditional shrine of the family or the community and libate, touch objects of traditional worship, sacred objects of traditional worship. It's not original in Ikwerre land. Traditionally in Ikwerre land, nyohu nunye diali meta odu botanaka. That's what we call odu. One joke they play. A slave and the owner cannot play that game. The owner is always superior to the slave. The slave is a property, an appendage of the owner forever. And so the slave cannot rule legitimate members of the community. Because in Ikwerre land, a slave is a substandard human being. That is the fact. Even in Western world, they preach equality of human beings and all that, but they know in their hearts that the original people, of those areas and the people they call the slave elements are not the same. The white people know. They know. So, slavery was a traditional practice of the ancients in those days around the world, and which Ikwerre at that time was not an exception. Ikwerre was not an exception at all. People practice traditional slavery here. They bought human beings like common goods in the markets. And so many women stayed at home and gave birth to children in Ikwerre land. These people are not original members of the Ikwerre ethnic nationality. Today, everybody is called Ikwerre, but traditionally, everybody is not equal. Everybody is not equal in Ikwerre land. When you want to become a chief in Ikwerre land, they tell you your history. That's of course the case. There are certain things you want to do in the community. Someone will come and tell you, brother, sister, Oga, no go this way, no go this area. You are this, you are that. It behoves them of you to understand or not. So in Ikwerre land, originally, everybody is not the same. Some are called original members of Ikwerre land. Some others are called fake members of Ikwerre land. And that is why in some communities, in some villages, like in my own case, my village called Nkanahia in Ishopo, we don't befriend each other. We don't have intercourse. It is not permitted. Yes, we agreed that we come from one common founder, and so we should not have sexual intercourse among ourselves. In Ishopo in general, some villages agree that they have, one common ancestry. But if you find out that there is a particular family, a particular area of the village that comes from the Ohu element, as an indigene, if you have a sexual affair with any woman from that place, it is not a taboo anymore. It is not a taboo. Because in the past, the real indigenes, the original members of the family, had sexual intercourses with the children of of their slaves. It was not a taboo, and so it is not also a taboo. You identify a particular place in Ikwerre land, in your community, as people who belong, or a particular place that belongs to the Ohu lineage, the stranger element background. And as an original member of the community, you now have a sexual intercourse with any female from that area. It is not a taboo. That person is not your sister. That person is not your brother. Originally, legitimately. That is the case. So in Ikwerre land, the Ohu and Omeni constitute about 90% of the population of Ikwerre people. Everybody now is Ikwerre, but originally that is the case. And I must have to tell you this. It is also the same in Igbo land, the same in Ejo land, the same in Ogoni land, the same in so many areas in Nigeria. You find some areas where a woman would have about 5, 6, 7 children for different men. And that, of course, is not tolerated in Ikwerre, and I know that in so many Igbo communities, they don't also pardon that. There's some areas, such a thing happens. A woman would have about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children for different men. All those children that you bring into that area are not original members of that community, of that place. In Ikwerre land, a child of Omeni, for example, that the father is also from Ikwerre, is an indigenous of Ikwerre land. A child of Omeni, and the father is from Ikwerre, is an indigene. The only thing is that that child cannot be taken away from that particular family unless certain rites are consummated. Certain rites are observed. Then the child can go traditionally, the way it is supposed to be done. But if your father is not from Ikwerre land and is from elsewhere, you are a stranger in Ikwerre land. You are a stranger. And so many people are like that. They have money, they are well-connected people, well-read, but their fathers are not from Ikwerre land. Only their mothers are from Ikwerre land. Someday you see them identify their fathers and they go. So that is the case in Ikwerre land. And I say this is a very wonderful exposition. I am an oracle in Ikwerre history. And I know that so many of you enjoy me, apart from the sentiment that you attach. So many of you enjoy a less British kind of history. I teach. My work here is to teach, not to disparage, not to denigrate, not to insult, not to revile any person or any group of people, but to state the fact as it is. This case is also found in so many other areas around the world, not only peculiar to Ikwerre people. And Mekau, dearly. My name is Dr. Alex British Chinedu Tassier, popularly called Professor of Native Intelligence. +234 806 369 3609. That's my call number and also my WhatsApp number. And make a dearly.